Hello everybody, this is local Tico Brohe here. We did a warrior solo run through Bitterblack Isle, where we resolved ourselves to use no healing items, no curatives of any kind, stamina or health. Usually I have a video here that indicates what gear we're using. I forgot to record it and then we deleted the character once we were successful, so the only thing to know is that the only ring we're using for any of the abilities is the Calamitous Lunge one. It also has, I want to say it has the Arc of ability on it as well, but it's not necessary. Gear, we're going to be using the Immortal set. We aren't going to be using any curatives, but we would 1000% die without any health regen. So we're going to use the Immortal set because each piece provides health regen. Weapons-wise, we have Bitter End for our standard damage. We have Rusted for Torpor. We have Gryphic Gold for Silence. We have Dwells in Light for Ghosts. And then we have, oh gosh, what's the last one called? Dragon's Flight, which is the Black Cat weapon that increases damage done to dragons. It's just going to give us a little bit more damage to dragons, and we had just enough inventory space to put it without going over light. My goal is to kill just about everything in each room. We aren't going to kill all of the critters, so you'll see here I'm going the other direction because I would rather deal with these spiders than the leap worms that are the other direction. So we'll hit the spiders. You'll see I'm also not doing a no-hit run. I am sure someone is capable of that. It is not me. If you watch my stream, you will understand that fact. I am not that great of a warrior. I love warrior, it's a lot of fun. But I am under no illusion that I am good at playing it and capable of evading with Exodus Slash. Speaking of abilities, we are using Exodus Slash. We have the, I think it's called Indomitable Lunge before we have the ring on. It becomes Calamitous Lunge once we equip the ring. And then we have Pommel Bash. Pommel Bash is specifically so that we can hit the Elder Ogre when it's doing its defensive curl. And as we have the Saurian configuration, we could have Death. You'll see I'm going to try and kill everything here before Death gets a chance to. I think I'm successful on all counts except for the Gore Cyclops, which is a bit unfortunate, but realistically, the Gore Cyclops does not pose us any risk. Obviously, he hits us there, but he hits us for like 100 damage. 200 damage. It's not really critical. We, in fact, regen that before we really run into him again, for the most part. But yeah, I'm just trying to kill everything. I would much rather be the reason things die than Death. Which sounds silly out loud, but I can't really help it if Death puts things to sleep and accidentally sides them. But you see, we do pretty good damage to this thing, so like we would not have had any trouble. Yeah, there it goes. So now I'll focus on Death. Warrior's not the best, obviously, vocation for dealing with Death. We don't have full sleep resist, so I can't just stand inside that. We do okay, though. We're not the worst, but we're not the best either. As for Augments goes, I did not put that in. But as for Augments, we are just using Clout, Impact, Autonomy. What else do we have? We have actually Acuity for extra magic damage. Gives us 20% additional magic damage, which is going to help speed up Ghosts and Living Armor. What else do we have? We have Eminence, which is the jumping attack. And I don't know. That's probably it. Oh, sorry. We have Stability. Stability so we don't have to deal with dragons. Yeah, that's all 6 right there. So Clout, Acuity, Autonomy, Stability, Eminence, and I already forgot whatever the other one was. If you might not be able to tell, I record these voiceovers in real time over the video, so there is no script. We're kind of just freewheeling here, so if I forgot one of the augments, don't worry. I will put them both. Well, I will put them all down below in the description, as usual. So feel free to reference that, as well as our gear layout if you didn't catch it all at the beginning or didn't want to pause and read the slide. It's totally fine. This vocation, we have Hellhounds. We need to kill them first because the dragon's actually not that tough, but the Hellhounds will just keep kind of hitting us, and it's particularly annoying. This pause here is likely because we were talking to stream. We do stream these live when we do these runs. I stream Monday through Friday over at twitch.tv/localticobrohe. This was actually the first run of the day, and unfortunately it was a successful one. But this is me probably greeting people that are arriving. But as I said, we're going to want to deal with the Hellhounds first. The Hellhounds just become a much more frustrating part than the dragon is. The dragon obviously is dangerous, don't get me wrong, but he's less frustrating to deal with because we can manipulate him quite easily using Rusted, and then we have a weapon that's literally designed to do a little bit extra damage to him. So we want to make sure we kill all 5 Hellhounds first. That should be the last one right there. We got blocked by the tail, but then he killed it for us, so that's cool. So our game plan from here to kill him is going to apply Rusted by hitting the wings, because the wings are a vulnerable spot that we're allowed to hit for Torpor, rather. And then once we have that, we'll switch to Dragon's Flight, although that was just Bitter's End. There we go. And we'll continue to hit the wings. The reason we hit the wings is because it still allows us to stagger him. And it does regular damage. It doesn't do the additional damage the heart does, but it does regular damage. The reason we're avoiding the heart is because if I stand next to the heart for too long, I will catch fire, and that'll actually deal damage to me, and I don't want that. Obviously, I could regen it back, but it's not fun. I would much rather just catch no damage. There you'll see I hit the heart because he was staggered. When he staggers, I'm going to try and hit the heart, because it's more or less just the best timing I have to hit the heart without really catching fire. Also, if he's already staggered and I hit the heart, it increases the chances that I knock him down, which is when we're allowed to deal the big damage. Because we are solo warrior, this run is going to take an extremely long time. This was actually a very short run, all told. I want to say it was around like 2 hours and 40 minutes. But our previous attempts were both like 3.5 hours, because this is our 3rd run. Our previous attempts were both like 3.5 hours. So, because of that, I have this video recording for our run is split into 3 separate videos. So I will make 3 videos for this. And you'll see at the end that we're going to cut the video in the antechamber after Gazer, but before we go into the Fortress of Remembrance. And then it'll pick back up right before we go. You know, it'll be picked up in the same spot, literally seconds later. Really, literally like 2 seconds later. So I will have the complete run. This is a full run of Bitterblack Isle. We will be going into the Ward of Regret, the Midnight Helix, as well as the Pilgrim's Gauntlet. I did not want to do a critical path run because there's nothing really to be gained by doing a critical path run versus a full run when we're not trying to do no hits. The reason I do critical path runs for no hits is because it's a good way to learn the no hit before I add the other rooms, which in my opinion have very frustrating configurations depending on the vocation you are. That Exodus Slash was to avoid him landing on top of me and dealing damage, which he did not do. Here's the Calamitous Lunge. It can do some pretty nice damage. I will often try to remember to switch out the ring. I will also often forget. When we're not using it, we're just using the barbed nails. For those of you who aren't super familiar with Warrior, a lot of your damage doesn't come from the fact that you have good damage, which you do, although you also deal it fairly slowly, so you're not very... Your damage over time isn't that much improved over other vocations that are simply faster, because they also deal good damage, just slightly quicker, whereas we do great damage just slowly. But because of that, our real advantage comes in the fact that we deal so much damage in one hit, we can apply so much stagger and knockdown to things. The barbed nails just help enhance that. We are allowed to knock things down easier, and when we knock things down is when the real damage comes out. So I will often use the barbed nails in an attempt to more or less guarantee my knockdown on things, and then once it's knocked down, I'll wail on it. Knocking things down does two things for us. One, it keeps us alive, because if something's knocked on its butt, it's not hitting us. Two, it also makes them vulnerable to additional damage. So, it has value. Word of regret, the only thing we're hoping for in this room is that we did not get ghosts. Ghosts actually aren't that hard. We do have a Dwells in Light, which has like a 50% damage increase to the wraiths because they're weak to holy. We did get Dwells in Light by killing the online Ur-Dragon in Grace, by the way. If you are playing right now, so are a million other people. It's absolutely a fantastic time if you want to try and get some of the Ur-Dragon online goodies, because the dragon goes into Grace just about every day at this point, so definitely try and get that if you can. But yeah, Dwells in Light you can only get from online Ur-Dragon, so if we got ghosts, we wouldn't really be too worried about the ghosts themselves. The reason I don't want ghosts, though, is because it means I get a living armor. Living armor is much more frustrating because it just has so much more health. It just takes so much longer for us to kill living armor than even like 10 ghosts would take us. So the fact that we got skeletons in that room tells me that we did not get that, and instead we should have like a silver and gold knight over here, which is much more favorable. If we had gotten living armor right here, what we would do is we would actually kite it forward, like behind it towards the door. In the next room there'd be like a poisoned undead and then like a banshee, I want to say. And what we do is we kind of dodge the living armor, and then we just kind of kill the two mobs that are in the room, and once they're dead we use that room as our arena because it's just a little too dangerous in this tight hallway. Both of our previous attempts we had the living armor in this room. Again, frustrating, challenging even, but not the end of the world. I'm a little bit surprised that that is picking up the overlay. That's kind of interesting. I will edit that out so that you guys can't see what that said, just to protect people's identities, but that's kind of funny. So these giant skeletons are a little bit, not really dangerous enough that I'm afraid that they'll kill me, but it's very difficult to avoid damage on them because we just don't knock them down that easily without a hammer. If we had a hammer, we'd do better, but it just weighs more, and that's why we're using the sword. Also, there's fewer things that are weak to the bludgeoning damage than the slash, so I prefer the slash. But Exodus Slash, while it has iframes on it, it's not ideal when you have an enemy that's going to attack you multiple times back to back. So the 3 slash combo that the giant skeletons have, we can evade the first swing really easily. The second swing is hard to evade, but we can do it. But the third swing is going to hit us every time. I, as I said before, am not a good warrior, so often the second swing hits me as well. The timing on the second Exodus Slash is just something my brain doesn't get, apparently, because a lot of times I will make the attempt and somehow fail, even though it looks like I timed it right and I got the sound effect, but I still get hit. I don't know. Again, I'm not a good warrior. But warrior is one of my favorite bookmarks. The damage difference between me using Dwells and Light, which looks awesome, by the way, and Bitter End here is pretty minimal, honestly. The holy damage obviously helps us, but it has significantly less damage in general because it's split between physical and magic. The way defensive thresholds work, it's usually not ideal unless something's truly weak and you have the damage for it. I don't. I'm mostly using it there because Dwells and Light will give us health back. So yeah, see there we got the Exodus Slash, but also took damage. I don't know. Here the strategy we're going to use is we just silence the dragon so that it can't cast at us. Then we're going to use Rested so that we get even more time to just wail on it without it being able to do anything. And then we're going to go back to Dragon's Flight like we did with the Fire one. So this one I will hit the heart more often than the Wing. The reason for that is frost damage isn't as bad as me catching fire. He does have a bit of a frost aura. We regen more than that, so I'm not too worried about the damage he does for me being close to him. But if I'm close to him for too long, I will be frozen solid, which I can just toggle out of before I really get hit because he's torpored. Another Calamitous Lunge. And easy as that. Now, we're still not done with the room. We're going to have 4 Strigoi that spawn only as we progress higher. So the first one will spawn kind of around the time we get to the top of these stairs. It'll be behind us. There it is. The second one will spawn as we cross the next, like, wooden bridge. And then the last 2 will spawn as we cross the one after that. What we're going to try and do is just make it so that they're all separated and we can just engage them one at a time. It just is a little bit safer. Any of you who have watched my previous videos will know that I like to do things a little bit safer than just go out guns blazing. Obviously, it's a holdover because I've done no hit runs, so I like safety. I don't mind if it takes me a little bit longer, so long as I don't risk anything. It's not a bother to me. It's also more in tune with my playstyle. I'm a bit more of a risk-averse individual. So I will often opt for the strategy that will keep me alive. I also used to be the raid leader of my guild back in the day in World of Warcraft, which is a game I haven't played for a minute, but I used to be the raid leader, and I couldn't tell you how many times I had to tell DPS that dead DPS is 0 DPS. So I've always played safe. If I die, I am not winning, so I don't like that. So we try and stay healthy. So if you did not notice, we ran across that hall and immediately went into that cell. Obviously, that's not safe. But we immediately went into that cell so that we could fight one. If you run directly in there, the second one oftentimes will get caught in the cage that's floating. So we kind of get freedom in a way of we can isolate the 2 of them. And then we just walk back the other direction to fight it. Obviously, we fell there, but that's okay. It procced us to get this curse straight. Now, the other dragons we torpored because we wanted them to do that in order to give us better damage windows on certain events. The reality here is I don't want that, because I don't really need the damage window. If I'm standing next to the crystal, because they don't have a heart, they have the crystal, right? If I'm standing next to the crystal, there is no aura that comes out that deals damage to me, so I'm not worried about how long I'm standing next to that aura and maximizing my stagger for it. I also find it easier to evade the dragon when it's at full speed. So torporing can also give me a little bit of a headache where I will dodge things at the wrong time because I dodge them early because I'm expecting a different speed. It also gets even more difficult if something is torpored and then it becomes untorpored. Anybody who's played this game probably has had that happen to them when they've used torpor the first time. Torpor eventually wears off, and then something's suddenly moving full speed. Against something that can be as powerful as the Cursed Dragon, that could spell some problems for us. So I just avoid that by fighting at full speed. The Cursed Dragon's actually one of my favorite enemies in the game because it's really fun to stand in the right positions, make it do what I want. Making it do what I want will get me a position where I get to hit it how I would like, eventually knock it down. I'm actually moving in really weird ways because I'm failing to pilot this vocation very well at times, so we kind of gave up and just started hitting it instead of doing what we were doing. But that's okay. So obviously Calamitous Lunge does a lot of good damage. Our jumping heavy attack does pretty good damage too. Technically we don't need to use Calamitous Lunge here. The difference in damage is very minimal. The main reason we use Calamitous Lunge is just so that we have it. We have something to do. Realistically, I could do this run with only 2 abilities. I could do this run with just Exodus Slash, and it would be possible. Pommel Bash would just speed it up a little bit. But realistically, the only thing you need to have is Exodus Slash. I struggled to think of which ability I would want to put on the bar, and I decided that Lunge was going to be the most fun, because we get to do it on things that are knocked over. So, that's why you see it. There's no secret Lunge tech or anything like that. Although it is a good ability. So here I'm running into the hall. We talked about this on stream, actually. This is a habit from me doing no-hit runs. If you just stand there and wail on him, you can usually just not get hit by his breath. It's not that consistent. It's like probably 80% consistency as far as evading it goes, 20% that it hits you. As long as you move in a certain way. That 20% is too much when I'm trying to do a no-hit run. I'm obviously not trying to do a no-hit run right now, so I kind of forgot about it. That was me just getting frustrated. I got pushed over the tail. So I kind of forgot about it. So you see me run into that hall. The second time I ran into the hall was actually because he was so pinned against the wall. Usually what I'll do is I'll try and climb onto his chest and just melee him. Just hit him with the climb attacks. But I didn't want to do that because usually he will rotate when you do that, and I didn't want him to rotate into point blank into the wall because then it would hit me for sure, which might have cursed me, definitely would have poisoned me because I don't have poison resistance, I don't believe, and I don't want either of those. So instead we just ran in there for the second one. But again, if we had him in the middle of the room, we could have just wailed on him and not really had it be a bother. Okay, coming out of the Midnight Helix in the Ward of Regret detour, we're about 800 health down by the time we make it outside. One of the rules that I haven't really explained for the run, I did say we weren't using any curatives. Obviously, we have this health regen armor on, though. I am not permitted to stand around and stall to get my health back, assuming my health gets low enough that I would want to. I am not permitted to do that. If my health is low, I have to progress. I'm allowed to wait for stamina to come back if I think my stamina is too low to progress to the next room. I don't think we ever do that, just because you don't need that much stamina as a warrior. But I'm allowed to do that, but I can't just wait to get my health back. You will see I will always move forward. Now, there are times when I do stall while I'm in combat with things because I'm baiting out the right attacks, but it has the added effect of getting health back over time. That is permissible because I still am engaging with the enemy in some manner. It's just mostly evasion at that point. But yeah, so you'll see, like, when I'm low health, I'll still keep pushing forward. As we can hear the wings of the cockatrice. That means we have the ranger pawns. This is a bit unfortunate of a configuration. This is one of those things where the no-hit run falls apart if you're trying to no-hit this. Obviously, it's fallen apart earlier because I'm not a good warrior. But this is really a hard part to evade damage on. There are 3 ranger pawns up here that we need to kill, and it's very hard to close the gap on them. So you'll see here I'm waiting because one of them will start walking down here eventually, and I'm hoping he will come all the way down, because sometimes they do. And if he does, I'll kill him. If I remember correctly, he comes like 80% of the way down this hallway and then says, never mind, and then he leaves. We can't just stand here. We can't just sprint up that hall because we're just going to take that great gamble to the face. We don't want that. The Rangers still do pretty considerable damage. We have a lot of physical defense, but they still do pretty good damage to us. So, basically, if you're trying to do this run yourself, if you get a situation like this, just run downstairs and take care of something else. When you are downstairs, the pawns will move around a little bit once they're far enough away from you. And when that happens, you can then kind of move back up there and see if the configuration they're standing in is a little bit more amenable to you being able to murder them. That was another gamble that someone attempted. Ah, see, that guy didn't jump down. I did not see him jump down on stream. I was super confused when I climbed up there and he was gone. I did see it that time, though, so that makes more sense. He, like, jumps down as I'm climbing up, but the vines in the way are throwing me off. Here I put my lantern away because I'm hoping to sneak up on them. Some enemies will catch your lantern light and move to deal with you earlier if they see the lantern. Here I'm hoping that these guys won't notice the lantern so much, or rather they won't see me because there is no lantern and I can really get close to them. And it kind of works. One down. There's one in the balcony all the way over there, and there's one in the balcony off to our right. We're going to get the one on the far side that we're looking at now, because for that one, we don't have to jump a gap. We can just run up to this guy whenever we get a good window. And now we only have one ranger. Unfortunately, he's in a pretty rough place for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the walls and the balconies to kind of be a shield for ourselves, and what we'll do is we'll get to a point where I think we can make the jump from an angle, and we'll wait out his big attack so that we can try and climb up there as fast as we can during his window. I'm trying to line the column up with me in a nice way so that if he shoots right at me, it hits the column like that. I do that swing because it gives me just a little bit of extra life. And there, we took one tenfold and it took half of our health away. We just shy, actually. Took like 45%. Because we had we had 4,820 health max. And it took us down to about 2,500. So that's, it's a lot. That's why those guys are scary. If we were not full health for that, and we were closer to half health, that would have been dangerous. If we had run up there when there were 2 of them earlier and we tried to make it down that hallway, or up that hallway rather, we would have just died because we would have taken 2 tenfolds to the face. We would have had no health left, and then we'd still have 2 other pawns to contend with that are both rangers. So I'm pretty happy that we actually made it past that part. That's by far the hardest part of this room. It's probably the hardest part of the first quarter. So, I'm pretty pleased with that. So we're going this way because there are still a pair of eliminators that we want to kill. Eliminators aren't really scary. They don't do that crazy damage to us because we do have pretty good defense. Not magic defense, mind you, just regular defense. Our magic defense is pretty rough. This character was leveled up 10 levels fighter, 190 levels of warrior, which is kind of the pattern I use for all of my vocations. I just level up whatever vocation we intend to use. You don't really need to min-max to be successful at this game at all. The only thing you're really limiting is how much health or stamina you have. Those are kind of the two valuable stats. The rest of them are just going to be a factor in your weapon and stuff. But yeah, we're going to deal with these guys. They can't really hit us for a whole lot. What scares us about them is if we get knocked down, they can still stomp on us and kill us. We do not have the aggression augment, so I would have to rely on my ability to do the toggle escape, which I'm not good at. I'm not very good at, so we're just going to try and kill them as quick as we can. That way I don't have to worry about it. With only one left, they're extremely easy. Obviously, our jumping light attack knocks them down when they're charging. After that, it's really easy to just outpace them. Step away, hit them again, kind of deal. We do pretty good damage. Certainly not worried about it. We ended with an Exodus Slash simply because it's quicker. If I had tried for a jumping light attack, we probably would have gotten it off. However, if we hadn't gotten it off, he would have knocked me on my butt. If I wasn't fast enough to get the controlled fall off, which I'm often not, because it's just not something I think about. But if I don't get the controlled fall off, he just stomps on me most likely. And I don't want that, because that's an instant death. That's the end of a run. So here we have the Undead. Undead is not my favorite configuration, although it isn't terrible. This configuration has corrupt pawns, as well as death. The other configuration has the Grim Goblins, sorry, the Greater Goblins, along with the Eliminators in the sewer. It has Saurian up here. I prefer the other configuration over this one simply because of habits developed from doing no hits. It's really hard to not get hit by all of the pawns with some vocations, because many of them are ranged and most of them are aggressive. They will seek you out and hit you, and it becomes a challenge in that regard. Obviously we're not doing a no-hit, but having to kill death while also fighting a bunch of pawns doesn't sound good. Having to fight pawns while evading death also doesn't sound good if we want to flip it the other way. So Yeah, this is not my preferred one. Also, I think fighting Elder Ogres is much more fun and engaging than fighting Death. So, I don't remember if Death spawns here. I believe he did, but we'll see. Whenever I get the chain of hits, you see that heal coming through. It's healing me for about 20-ish, maybe, which isn't really a whole lot. It's only slightly better than what my heal over time is anyhow. But those heals are often... I don't know if it's true for all of the holy damage heals, but I know for some abilities, the holy damage heal is based off of how much magic defense you have. So I would expect that to be the case here. The fact of the matter is we have very little magic defense on this character, so we probably aren't doing that much. We have somewhere around like 300 or probably 400 magic defense, if I remember correctly. It's pretty low. I was testing the damage there between the two. The damage is... The difference is so minimal that I can't really tell that much. I think Bitter End actually deals slightly more damage, but Dwells in Light looks cooler, so we choose to use that. That's really it. Dwells in Light looks cooler, so we choose to use it. Considering we have both on our bar, it's really no hardship to use one over the other. Earlier we were using Dwells in Light because of the extra health regen aspect of it. We're already full health, so me standing here isn't really a problem. I'm probably replying to something in chat. But, again, I'm not going to be standing still to recover health at any point during this run. There we were already full health, so it was kind of irrelevant. So here we have the pawns. I don't hear Death's music, so it seems that Death has not spawned yet, which is nice. We've already been hit, so there's one no-hit run that would have been killed. We've been hit again. We've been hit by that debilitation, you know. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, there's very few areas that I feel I would be successful in a no-hit run. As a warrior specifically, so that's why we didn't go for it. That's why we instead chose to do a solo run, no healing, no curatives rather. Obviously we are healing with our armor, but no curatives. We're not using parry-apps, we're not using throw blasts, we're not using even stamina curatives. We're just this character was a woman. We're just a woman with a big sword. And some armor that's pretty good. I usually like to be a little bit more fashionable with my armor choices. I actually don't mind the way this armor looks. I do not like the helmet. Mostly I don't like the extra Hydra heads that stick off of it. I get that it's super cool and it looks dope, but my favorite helmet, period, in any game or fantasy setting is just a standard bucket helm. And this helmet almost looks like a bucket helm, but it has that extra stuff on it. Gazer. Gazer's pretty easy. We're just going to fight some tentacles outside here just to kill them. There's two plans that we have at the same time. One is we're going to kill tentacles, and if he casts lightning, we'll jump onto his face and we'll kill him. by bashing the eye. The reason we wait till lightning is because lightning doesn't do that much damage to us. Like that, we caught one Ingle and it did a little more than, what was that, 1300 damage-ish? Whereas these are gonna do like 100 apiece. Not critical. Also, even we have a lot of stagger resistance because we have heavy armor on, but if we didn't, we would still have the other casts that the Gazer can do a lot more stagger, so they'll often knock you off of his face if you jump on while he's doing other abilities. If he had never chosen to cast lightning like he did there, we would just continue to kill tentacles until he decides to use his ability that makes the giant tentacle spawn underneath us, and then we would just target that under his eye. To those of you that are curious about Heracles, that right there is why we don't use Heracles. We were able to one-shot each of those tentacles. We can't do that with Heracles. Even though Heracles does about the same amount of damage over time, probably a little bit more, it's so inconsistent that in hitting those tentacles in train, before we got Bitter End, we were actually using Heracles, and most of the time I could get a crit while doing a jumping heavy on those tentacles, but every once in a while I wouldn't. And I would have to jump more than once. With that, we can just do a jumping light attack and kill it, guaranteed every time. That's why we're using Bitter End over Heracles. It's also more damage that you take with Heracles and stamina usage. Those are the drawbacks. Cool weapon, though. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, with that, that's going to be the end of this first segment. There are going to be 2 more parts coming. We're just going to break it up into the different corridor wings of Bitterblack Isle. But the video is going to cut there, and it's going to pick up like 2 seconds after that in the next one. I hope to see you guys there. Thanks for watching.